Welcome to the SwimSwam podcast. I'm your host, Coleman Hodges. Joining me today, we have got Northwestern University head coach, Katie Robinson. Katie, how's it going?
It's good. How are you, Coleman?
I'm doing well. Just like you, just running through this conference marathon. You're coming off the women's meet. You're going into the men's meet. And the women had seems like a really successful performance. You said you were happy, not satisfied, but happy with their results. They ended up fourth overall. And it was interesting because, obviously there's kind of a glaring hole there. You're missing a senior leader on the team and a top point scorer in Calypso Sheridan. And yet you were able, the women threw down. So heading into this meet, did you have expectations for this team?
It's interesting because expectations seem like a really heavy word, knowing the year we had, with COVID protocols and our spaces in between where we didn't get to train. And so I don't think expectation would be the right word, but I would say we had a lot of hope. We had a lot of excitement, going into the meet, and they were ready to throw down. And it's interesting because I think you were mentioning how we didn't have Calypso on our team. And we definitely miss her, and we're excited for her to be here next year. But I will say that it was a great opportunity for the other swimmers on our team to really step into their own, and the identity that our team needed to build throughout the season without Calypso was really important. And they did such a good job of it. And I was impressed as a coach watching them develop their own identity without the star that is Calypso Sheridan, and becoming stars themselves. That was really a neat growth moment for us coaches to see.
I mean, in developing an identity as a team and as individuals, I'm sure, without having a lot of the normal interaction that a team normally has, I mean, how were they able to develop that over the course of this season? Again, when you can't gather as a team normally does.
That's a great question. I don't know the answer to it. We trained hard. They felt pride around their training that they got to have. And in our training groups, they were prideful. Like the breaststroke unit is really proud of their, training group and what we do in the training pool. And so once we got to the meets, and once the meets got started, they really started to jive with that identity. So I think a little bit was results oriented when they started to see how many people were going lifetime best times that were shocking, even to us coaches. We were like, whoa, okay, let's go. So yeah, I think it was a lot of results oriented, confidence building.
I mean, and obviously the Big Ten wasn't able to compete in the fall. You got a few meets in the spring, and then you had this massive swimming celebration that was a 4.5 day conference meet. I've talked to a couple other Big Ten coaches, but I'm curious, how you got your athletes ready for an extra day of conference competition.
Oh gosh. How do you not get ready? I mean, you still do the same thing. We didn't taper as much, perhaps, as a whole unit. We didn't go down as much because we lost 2 weeks in early January where we weren't able to train. So we had such good results throughout the season without having to full taper down the traditional 2 weeks. So we just kind of sharpened them up, got them feeling good, and then we went and raced. I don't know that there's a whole lot of magic behind that. It's just getting them ready.
I guess let me phrase it a different way. So that's obviously the physical side of it. Emotionally, 3.5 day conference meet can be draining enough. A 4.5 day meet, especially when the athletes aren't used to that long of a format for the Big Ten meet. How did you guide them through that, which can be a big roller coaster to get over?
Yeah, I don't know that we even focused on it a ton. It was just the meet's 4.5 days. Okay. These are these days, and just refocusing okay, this is your rest day. You get a break day. That's really nice. And knowing our Northwestern students, they all took classes on the rest day and exams. We had an exam, and because she didn't have event that day. So it was, but it was actually really helpful. I thought the student athletes seemed to to roll with the punches of that pretty well. They liked having an off day in the middle of the meet somewhere, especially our relay swimmers, because if they didn't have an event that morning, but then they were on a relay at night, they could really just prepare for that relay really well. I liked not having relays on the same day as the like 100 of stroke, especially for our 4 medley relay, because sometimes on those days you have to do 3 100s of your best stroke, like back, like that's a lot, and so yeah, I thought I liked it. I don't know that I would vouch for doing that in years to come. I don't know how I feel about that. I'd have to take some time to really think about that, but in the moment it was fine.
Nice. And I mean, it's your first year as the head coach of the program, and heading into NCAA's now. Not having had the data point of NCAA's last year, I mean, how the team did at conference, and then, NCs were canceled. So not having had that data point, but now having had, let's call it a quarantine taper, for this conference meet, how do you feel heading into NCAA's physically, just with the athletes' preparation?
I was just thinking about this morning because in our conference meet different. Usually we have a lot more weeks in between our conference meet and NC2As, but we backed up our conference meet as late as we could go. So now we have a 2.5-week turnaround between conference and NC2As. And it's interesting because we didn't rest that much, and so I think what we'll just continue to do is sharpen them up, and they're not going to feel great. It's going to be a little bit kind of wonky these first few days swimming out the meet, and then they're going to do a set on Wednesday that they're not going to be really happy about, I'm sure. But we talked about like the plan moving forward with each of them, and they know that like a lot of them, because we prepared for NC2As, we were getting ready to leave. And so we had done that preparation, so they know kind of how they're going to feel. We're going to have to push it a little bit when they don't feel good, and get over it and move on to the next day, and you'll start feeling better by the time we get to that meet. So I think taper is like the word that we're not really using this year. It's more just like rest and sharpen up. So and a lot of them, they're on the same page. They're like, I don't want to like do the traditional rest for 2 weeks, and think it helped us be pretty strong in our 200s on that last day. So I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah. And going back to the meet, were there moments during the championships that surprised you as a coach?
Oh man, the relays, like we've never been that high of placing team in the Big Ten in many, many years. And so to get second place in both medleys, and then to get third place on the last night with the NCAA cut in that 400 free relay, like fighting to the end. I'm really proud of our team for fighting, especially on those relays, because that's like when you really embody the team atmosphere in the race. And so I'm really proud of that. I think, one of the races that I love to highlight, because a lot of times you highlight obviously your top kids and they get a lot of accolades, and that's great and fun. But one of our swimmers, Becky, she made her first Big Ten A final in the 200 breaststroke, dropping 3 seconds off her best time. And that was just like she's our captain, she's a senior, and that was just like a really special moment for her and for all of us.
Yeah. A unique moment that I have to ask about there was an you know what's coming.
I know it's coming.
There's an honest effort DQ. To give some context, it was a DQ in the 100 backstroke.
Yes.
Swimmer went 102 after making the A final, and then I think there was a celebration. And there was speculation that the celebration might have been the reason for that DQ. But from the coach's perspective, can you break down that situation for me?
Sure. Well, first of all, I should have known of that rule, and I didn't. So I totally own that mistake. And I was born and raised to own my mistakes when I make them. And so I take ownership of that. And then the celebration at the end. This is Miriam. She's a lovely young woman, and I'm upset in the sense that it came off wrong. Like she was hyped. She did so well to make both A finals, in the morning session. And we were really excited about that. And we did have a strategic game plan of like, swim the hunter back, don't like gun it. And then let's go hard on this two fly, because that two fly, she's very, very talented and has a really good shot at, just a great time in scoring points. So it was a strategic call for us coaches. And the celebration at the end, yeah, it came off really wrong, but I think it was her just being silly with her teammates, and she was hyped for it. And it is what it is. I would change some things, but I think it came off a lot more offensive than I think it was ever intended. And yeah, we're moving on. It was, to be honest, like that was like a moment right in the meet where it could have gone both ways. And the fact that our next event was the 100 breaststroke, and Tata led off in getting second out of the B final from lane 1 in that heat, and then Sophie and Hannah getting second and third overall from the A final in the 100 breaststroke in that very next event was like a really big step of resilience for the team. So again, it was a little bit of a weird moment, but we recovered, and you just got to move on and learn from those mistakes.
I'm happy to get context from you from that, because I didn't even know about it. And then we put out an article kind of going into a dive, and I had certainly never heard of an honest effort DQ. And it was, it was kind of like, wait, what? So a bit of a bizarre moment, but I think it's good to get context. And it seems like something you learn from and move on from, like you said. So to wrap things up, heading into NCs, just let's back it up. You've got the men's meet this week.
Yes.
How are you feeling about the men heading into Big Tens this weekend?
Good. They've been strong all season long, and they're definitely hungry for it. We rested them a little bit more, and we sharpened them up as a men's team, as you would. And we just actually got done with a little swim around over here at Ohio State, and so they're looking good. Their paces are good. Everybody's looking great. And I think they're just eager to like have a championship meet. For so long, both teams were like not sure if this could really get pulled off. And so we're really grateful for the opportunity. And I know that they like to get really rowdy, and I'm very excited for that.
Do you feel like the women kind of set the stage and maybe, I don't know if overperformed is the right word, but they had a really good showing at their championships? And do you feel like the energy on the men's team maybe changed a little after seeing what the women did?
Oh yeah, they're a tight unit. Like our men's team and our women's team are like really great at cheering for each other and just like being really supportive. And so I know our men's team back home, they were like asking like, hey, can we get together and like have it on a big screen? And the COVID rules are like, no, sorry. But like, I know they were all watching, and they're cheering them on throughout the whole week and getting pumped themselves. So I think, the women did a great job of like doing just awesome for themselves, but then also pumping the men's team up. And now it's the men's team's turn, and we're excited.
Well, Katie, I appreciate you taking the time out of your very busy 10 days to sit down and chat with me. Any parting thoughts before we sign off?
Go Cats.
You've been listening to the SwimSwam podcast. Stay tuned for new episodes every week. You can take SwimSwam podcast on the go by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Look for links in the description below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos as well.